Most people know what a budget is. You probably have one at home. You figure out where your money is coming from and spend it on what's important to you, all without spending more than you have. Like you, HISD has a budget too, a general operating budget of about $1.5 billion. The money comes from different sources and pays for all the different needs of the district. The biggest share comes from local property taxes paid by homeowners and businesses. HISD's property tax rate, by the way, is the lowest among school districts in Harris County. Other revenue comes from the state, but each year the state's share has been getting smaller, so as that revenue drops, we've done what everyone else would do. We've tightened our belts. To a much smaller degree, donations, fees, interest income, delinquent tax collections, and other miscellaneous sources are also revenues. All these income sources get distributed according to the district's needs. The general fund gets the biggest share of the money. It's the main operating budget that pays for teachers, buses, building maintenance, utilities, basically things that keep our schools open every day. But money that's earmarked for certain programs is put into other equally important funds that cannot be used for any other purpose. For instance, there's the Special Revenue Fund that distributes federal money for programs for low-income students, and the Debt Service Fund that helps the district pay back money it's borrowed, and the Capital Renovation Fund that includes bond money used to build and renovate schools. Finally, other funds are earned from services provided by the district for a fee, like school lunches and printing. So, how is the money spent? Nearly 3/4 of the general fund pays for the salaries and benefits of the people who work at HISD, like teachers, principals, bus drivers, and custodians. In recent years, HISD has cut 700 positions at the central office. On average, across the state, central administration positions make up 1% of a district's total staff. Here in HISD, it's even less. Our total is less than half the state average. And though this makes up the bulk of the district's expenses, the general fund also covers things like utilities, building maintenance, and other fixed costs to support students in the instructional program. So you may ask, how much money does a school get? Well, that depends on its students. Each school gets an amount based on the number of students enrolled there, but that amount is modified by the average number of students who come to class. The higher the average daily attendance is, the more money the school gets. Let's say that an elementary school with 500 students enrolled gets an average attendance of 95%. That gets the school about $1.6 million. Not too bad, but if that same school had a 98% average attendance, the difference would be $50,000, enough to hire another teacher for that school. Schools also get additional money for children who require more educational resources, such as at-risk students, bilingual students, and gifted and talented students. And there's a per-student amount for schools to buy things like computers and band instruments. Finally, schools with very low enrollments get extra money to make sure they can provide the same level of education as larger schools. Every student is important. At each school, the principal and his or her team are in the position to know exactly what their campus needs. They decide how to spend the money within specified requirements and with input from parents and others in their communities. Schools spend on different priorities. While one principal may decide a nurse is important at her campus, another principal may think it's more important for his school to have an extra librarian or updated computers. Meanwhile, the superintendent of schools and the chief financial officer evaluate all budget requests, Board of Education priorities, and mandates from the state to develop the district-wide budget. Once our budget is approved, it's a big job keeping an eye on it. It requires monitoring at all levels all year long. We follow accounting procedures and laws and watch spending patterns. And to make sure our money buys the best education possible, the district makes every school and department accountable for performance and how it helps increase student achievement. Others, like the Board of Education, the Houston community, and the state of Texas, are watching too. We think it's important for taxpayers and the public to understand where the money comes from and where it goes. In fact, the district is a recognized leader in making financial information open and accessible. You can see all the details of our budget online, as well as the check registry, where you can search the list of every check that HISD has written for the past 2 years. You'll see that just like you, HISD spends its money on what's important. And what's important to HISD and the community is making sure every student has the opportunity to get the finest education possible.